Just because my CEO wife once said let's try for a baby again, everyone there started looking at me strangely. They all knew that years ago I had cleverly made her the mother of twins. That was how I finally managed to marry Xinwan. Now that she mentioned having another baby, it was obvious that this child was not meant to be mine. Everyone expected me to flip the table or make a scene out of anger, but without showing any emotion, I walked up to her, took off my wedding ring, and gave it to his childhood love. I slipped the ring onto his finger. The person you never wanted to leave, now you won't have to. After saying that, I placed my daughter, who called that jerk dad every day and followed him everywhere, into his lap. Then I held my son's hand and walked away without looking back even once. That night, Xinwan tried everything to calm our crying daughter, but nothing worked. 2 years later, I had just put my son to sleep when it suddenly started pouring outside. Then there was a loud knock at the door. When I opened it, a drenched woman was standing right outside. "I'm really sorry, our car broke down here. Our boss's daughter has a very high fever. I heard you have fever medicine for children at home. Please, could you spare us some medicine? We'll pay whatever you ask." "No. Sir, we're not bad people. Our boss is very strict. We just want to save the child's life. We'll pay whatever you want." The name Xinwan sounded familiar yet strange to me. She was my ex-wife. For a full a year later, the moment I heard her name again, my body froze. The pain I had buried deep inside my heart came back once again. Just then, a loud clap of thunder came from outside. Hearing the noise, my son, who had just fallen asleep, suddenly started crying loudly in fear. I immediately dropped my phone and rushed inside to calm him down. "Sir, you're a father too. Please help us. Save the little girl." I stayed silent for a moment. Even though those two girls had always been distant from me, they were still my own children. About 10 minutes later, I opened the courtyard door. "Sir!" I handed him a bottle of fever medicine for children without showing any emotion. "I'm not your sir. Take the medicine and leave quickly." On the back seat of the black luxury car, the caretaker was holding his little daughter, who was burning with a high fever, close to his chest. His eyes stayed fixed on me the entire time. I was about to turn around and go inside when I heard the secretary's voice from behind. "Wouldn't you like to meet both girls? They still think about you often." "Look, I'm just saying, let it be. Maybe it isn't necessary anymore." Just then, the car door opened. As soon as I finished speaking, Xinwan's face instantly turned cold. I did not stop for even a second. I shut the main door and walked back inside. I tried to make arrangements for them to stay somewhere else, but at the same time, I still could not completely ignore my sick daughter. Then there was another loud knock on the door. "Bad news. The younger young lady's fever has gone even higher. She has also started vomiting." The last wall in my heart finally broke. I gritted my teeth, opened the door, and allowed all of them to come inside. The next morning, after a whole night of rushing around, Yeting and Zhao Yu's fevers had finally gone down completely. I learned that they were supposed to leave this very day, so I did not pay much attention to the fact that both girls were still inside my house. Meanwhile, Borin, who normally never gave his favorite things to anyone, took out his favorite toy and offered it to Yeting. Yeting happily held his hand, wanting him to play with her, but Zhao Yu, who was standing nearby, suddenly shouted loudly, "Don't give that toy to that boy!" A little later, when Xinwan entered the room, she saw Zhao Yu crying loudly. She immediately went over to her. Yeting also stepped forward to comfort her younger sister, but Zhao Yu, who was filled with anger, suddenly pushed her hard. Yeting fell to the ground. "I don't want a big sister! Go play with that bad man's son!" Xinwan immediately picked up Yeting and held her in her arms. "Apologize to your sister." "No, he isn't my dad. I want Uncle Badan. Mommy, please take me to him." Xinwan's face filled with anger. She was about to scold Xiao Yu when I spoke in a cold voice. "The child didn't say anything wrong. I really am not worthy of being called their father. It's morning now. You people should leave my house too." Outside, the storm and rain were still continuing. In this kind of weather, it was difficult even to step outside, let alone drive somewhere. Xinwan probably never expected me to become this heartless. "Yi Chen, these are your own daughters. Are you really going to take revenge on a little child?" Just then, Yeting spoke softly. "Mommy, the toy I gave Borin was the one you bought for me before. Xiao Yu's little car is still at home." She probably thought that I had given away her toy. That was why she became angry. After learning the truth, Xinwan's face became even colder. She looked at Xiao Yu and said, "Xiao Yu, that toy belonged to your sister. She can give it to whoever she wants. Crying and throwing a tantrum like this is completely wrong." Xiao Yu reluctantly came over to me. "Sorry, I won't call you a bad man anymore." But the word dad reached her lips and stopped there. She could not say it. She looked at me with great hope, as if she expected me to pick her up like before and comfort her. But this time, nothing like that happened. Hearing her incomplete apology made my chest hurt. I silently picked up my son Borin and walked away. Yeting stayed behind and kept looking at me. Several times she wanted to stop me, but every time the words got stuck in her throat. In the end, she lowered her head sadly. I clearly saw the sadness on Yeting's face. Yechen, can the two of us talk alone? There is nothing left for us to talk about. My wife is on her way. She will be home very soon. So please pack your things and leave this place as quickly as possible. The moment Xinwan heard my words, her face turned dark. Yechen, you really are very quick at finding a new woman. First, you separated from your first love and immediately started chasing after me. Now, it hasn't even been long since we divorced and you have already gotten married again. You really know how to manage your time. I clenched my fists. What does that have to do with you? Last night, you only asked to stay here for one night. Now keep your promise and take both your daughters and leave my house immediately. Xinwan gritted her teeth. Yechen, Yeting and Xiaoyu are both your own daughters. Are you really going to abandon your own children just because this boy has appeared? How can you be so heartless? Seeing the situation becoming more tense, the secretary immediately stepped in. Sir, the water has risen everywhere outside. Even if we want to, we cannot leave the village right now. I replied in a cold voice. That is your problem. It has nothing to do with me. Just then, my phone suddenly rang. The moment I answered the call, all the coldness disappeared from my face. Dear, when will you be home? Borin has been missing you since morning. The moment Xinwan heard my voice, her body suddenly swayed. Her vision became dark. Her body was already weak because of the high fever, and now it could not take any more. She fainted and fell to the ground. The secretary became extremely anxious. Madam has been working non-stop on the land for the resort project these past few days. She has barely slept properly for several nights. Her body was already at its limit. The moment I heard the words resort project, a strange light appeared in my eyes. So the company that had recently been competing with me for that piece of land actually belonged to her. I looked at her pale and unconscious face. For all my anger, my heart was still not completely hard. I took a deep breath. Fine, you can stay here until the road opens. Relief immediately appeared on the secretary's face. Thank you, sir. The next morning, I came downstairs with dark circles under my eyes and started making coffee for myself. The secretary had also woken up early. The moment he smelled the coffee, he happily came over. Sir, if possible, could you make one cup for me too? Without saying anything, I made a cup for him as well. Just then, Xinwan came out of her room after getting ready. She saw us sitting together and drinking coffee. The secretary smiled and spoke. Madam, I have never tasted coffee this delicious in my life. The coffee made by Sir is really amazing. It smells so good too. Xinwan looked at us coldly. Oh, what is so special about it? The secretary's smile immediately disappeared. He hurriedly finished his coffee. Madam, I'll go outside and check the condition of the road. After saying that, he quickly left. Xinwan slowly walked toward me. She spoke in a mocking tone. After all these years, I never knew you could make such good coffee. I gave a cold laugh. When did you ever need to know? After saying that, I put down my cup and started walking upstairs. But suddenly, she grabbed my hand tightly. Yi-chen, don't you feel even a little guilty when you look at your two daughters? After disappearing for more than 2 years, do you even remember that you are Yeting and Xiaoyu's father? I looked at her coldly. Why should I feel guilty? The person who should be ashamed is you. Xinwan, when you were lost in love with that man, did you remember that you were also the mother of 2 children? She became angry. You are talking complete nonsense. That day we were only having a meal together. Just because of something so small, you ended everything. I suppressed the urge to roll my eyes. Even after all these years, she was still defending that man. Xinwan's face became serious. Badan is not the kind of man you think he is. If you want to misunderstand me, fine, but don't make false accusations against him. I had thought my heart had already turned into stone, but her words still caused a sharp pain in my chest. Xinwan looked directly into my eyes. Who is that woman you left your wife and children for? I forcefully pulled my hand away. She is 100 times, 1,000 times, even 100,000 times better than you. After saying that, I quickly went upstairs without looking back. Suddenly, a loud sound came from behind me. Someone had fallen to the ground. Xinwan's fever had only gone down the previous night. Now her high fever had returned. The rain outside continued without stopping. After the secretary acted as a mediator, we reached an agreement. They would stay here until the road opened. During this time, they would pay 1 lakh rupees rupees per day for their stay and medical expenses. But this did not last for just one day. It continued for an entire week. During this time, Boren was the happiest. He had found 2 new playmates. Every day, he looked forward to playing with Yeting and Xiaoyu. Slowly, after Yeting kept persuading her, Xiaoyu also began to like this little brother who was always smiling. Meanwhile, Jinwan continued attending online meetings while resting in the guest room. One day, she had just finished an international meeting when she noticed something. The child who had been sleeping upstairs, Boren, was slowly coming down the stairs alone while rubbing his eyes. His eyes were red. He stretched out both hands innocently. "Mommy?" Jinwan's entire body froze. She slowly picked Boren up into her arms. Nanny came running inside in panic. Only then did Shinwan learn that I had gone out. Before leaving the house, I had clearly told Nanny to stay with Boren, even paid her advance, but she had gone back to her own house. Shinwan scolded her. "Do you even know how dangerous this was?" The women explained that her house is nearby, so she would quickly pick up her clothes and come back immediately. How was she supposed to know the child would wake? Boren sensed the anger on Shinwan's face, so he leaned forward and gave her a kiss on the cheek. Then, copying Yeting, he said, "Mommy, don't be angry." A wild thought flashed through Shinwan's mind. Could Boren be the child she had lost? About 2 hours later, I returned home. As soon as I entered, I saw my son Boren sitting in Shinwan's arms. The woman immediately came toward me nervously and admitted her mistake. After hearing everything, my face became cold. "Auntie, leave. I clearly told you not to leave Boren's side even for a moment before leaving the house. That is why I gave you extra money." Auntie Jo had never seen me this cold and angry before. She quickly tried to defend herself. "Yi-chen, I thought the child was sleeping very deeply. My house is right next door. I only went to pick up some clothes. How long could that possibly take? Look, Boren is completely fine now. In our village, children have been staying by themselves like this for years. Nothing ever happened." She said this while proudly raising her chin. The child's mother is making a big fuss for no reason. On top of that, she even scolded me. "I have been working in your house for a whole month. I have never been insulted like this before. Yi-chen, you should compensate me." I looked at her coldly. First, she is not Boren's mother. Second, the relationship between us is only that of employer and employee. Nothing happened today. But if something had actually happened, the color immediately disappeared from Auntie Zhao's face. "Yi-chen, I promise I will never make such a mistake again. Please give me one last chance." She knew that my son was my greatest weakness. As she said this, she reached toward Shinwan, trying to take Boren from her arms. But Shinwan quickly stepped back and did not let her touch the child. My eyes fell on Auntie Zhao's hands. They were still covered in dirt from the fields. The anger inside me instantly exploded. I immediately took her full salary from my bag and threw it at her face. "Auntie Zhao, you are fired from today. From now on, don't even try to step inside this house again." Auntie Zhao stood there in shock. After a few moments, she shouted angrily, "Yi-chen, how can you be so heartless? You fired me over such a small matter. You really are ungrateful. No wonder even your woman left you." Without saying a word, I grabbed her arm and pushed her toward the door. "Get out, and don't ever let me see your face again." Now that the argument had completely broken out, Auntie Zhou also started cursing me openly. Without hesitation, I slapped her hard 3 times across the face. "Watch your mouth." After being slapped, she stood there stunned for a few moments. Then she sat on the ground and began crying and screaming loudly. Hearing the noise, the nearby villagers also gathered around. I looked at everyone and clearly explained. I trusted her and gave her the responsibility of taking care of my son. But she took the money, abandoned her work, and went back home. Then I told the villagers, "From today onward, I will take care of my son myself. If anyone in the village gets sick, go directly to the district hospital for treatment." With just a few words, the whole situation became clear to everyone. That same day, the news spread throughout the village that Auntie Zhou had failed to fulfill her responsibility even after taking money and had angered her employer. On the other hand, I was secretly grateful to Shinwan for taking care of Boren. Because of this, my attitude toward her became slightly softer than before. Whenever Shinwan cooked food for her 2 daughters, she also prepared food for the entire household. Thinking about it felt strange. During our marriage, I had never once eaten food cooked by her. But after our divorce, for the first time, I got to eat the food she had made. However, from the day Boren called her mommy, I clearly told her not to get too close to him. Except during mealtimes, I spent almost the entire day inside my study. The next day was Boren's follow-up examination. I had already arranged a car to take him to the hospital and completed all the necessary preparations. conversations. After ending the phone call, I returned to the study, but when I entered, Boren was not there. My heart suddenly started beating faster. I anxiously rushed toward the stairs. The moment I looked downstairs, I froze. Standing in front of me was the one person I never wanted to see again in this lifetime, Wang Badan. How would he come here? At that moment, he was tightly holding both of Boren's cheeks. The little boy struggled with all his strength to break free, but Wang Badan held him even tighter in his arms. I shouted loudly, "Let him go immediately!" After saying that, I quickly ran down the stairs. Hearing my voice, Wang Badan raised his head and looked at me. For a moment, panic flashed in his eyes, but the next moment, when he heard Boren crying and calling me dad, deep hatred suddenly filled his eyes. He tightened his fingers even more. His sharp nails dug directly into Boren's cheek, leaving a long scratch. Blood immediately began flowing from the wound. Boren's painful scream echoed throughout the house. Shinwan, who was inside, immediately ran out after hearing the child's cry. As soon as she crossed the doorway, she saw me. I was holding Boren with one hand, while my other hand had already landed a hard slap across Wang Badan's face. Shinwan trembled with anger and asked me loudly, "Yi-chen, what are you doing?" Wang Badan's eyes immediately turned red. His voice became weak and pitiful. "Shinwan, I just thought the child was very cute. I wanted to hold him. I don't know why Yi-chen suddenly started hitting me the moment he arrived." I completely ignored his innocent act. I immediately brought the first aid box and began cleaning my son's wound and applying medicine. Just then, Shinwan also noticed the wound on the child's cheek. Seeing the red and swollen injury, her eyes narrowed instantly. Her heart felt as if it had been tightly twisted. Meanwhile, Wang Badan was clearly nervous as well. Without realizing it, he hid the same fingers that had hurt the child behind his back. He quickly said, "Shinwan, I didn't do it on purpose. I just panicked. My hand slipped and I accidentally scratched the child." I trembled with anger. "Who gave you permission to enter my house?" Shinwan saw how furious I had become and immediately stepped forward, trying to take Boren into her arms, but I stepped back. Her hand remained hanging in the air. At that moment, Xiaoyu spoke timidly. I was the one who opened the door for Uncle Badan. He said he brought a small cake for me. I haven't had cake for a long time." My eyes fell on the cream around her lips. Then I looked at the cake sitting on the table. My heart sank. I made a huge mistake. "All of you, leave my house right now." The moment Xiaoyu heard my words, she started crying loudly. Yeting, who was standing nearby, also became completely silent out of fear. Shinwan's face turned pale. "Yi-chen, calm down." I covered both of my son's ears with my hands so he would not hear anything. Then I looked at Shinwan and gave a cold laugh. "Shinwan, don't you understand human language? I told you to leave. Take your daughters and that man and get out of my house." Wang Badan once again began pretending to be reasonable and noble. "Yi-chen, I know you have misunderstood me. I'm not angry with you. I'll consider that slap punishment for my mistake. We can still be friends. But Shinwan, Yeting, and Xiaoyu are completely innocent. Don't take your anger out on them." At that exact moment, the people sent by Aji arrived to pick us up. One after another, 6 black cars stopped outside. The entire convoy looked extremely impressive. More than 20 men got out of the vehicles. I did not waste even a moment. "Throw all of them out." Shinwan's family's bodyguards were fewer in number. They could not hold out for long. My men quickly took control of everyone, tied them up, and threw them outside the courtyard. As for Wang Badan, he was directly thrown into a water-filled muddy pit outside the door. His white pants were covered in mud in an instant, but then Shinwan suddenly grabbed my hand tightly. Her voice was as cold as ice. "Yi-chen, aren't you going too far?" My eyes turned red with anger. I looked at her and said, "In your eyes, whatever I do is always wrong anyway, so consider this just another mistake." She probably had never seen me like this before. For a few moments, she stood completely silent. Before she could say anything else, I forcefully pulled my hand away from her grip. I lowered my head and said in an ice-cold voice, "Please leave my house right now." Xiaoyu stood there frozen. She first looked at me, then at Wang Badan. Finally, she ran over to help him up. "Uncle Badan, are you hurt?" On the other side, Yeting simply stood there silently, looking at me and the little brother in my arms. Seeing the three of them standing there together, my heart completely broke. I no longer had any expectations from them. I should never have softened my heart that day. I looked at them one last time and said, "Never show your faces to me again in this lifetime." Then I added coldly, "Or do you want me to have my men throw you out too?" At that exact moment, Boren's body suddenly became burning hot. I placed my hand on his forehead. He was burning badly with a fever. My heart immediately panicked. I quickly packed all of Boren's daily necessities. Then I ordered my men to remove everything that Wang Badan had touched. The sofa where he had sat, the carpet where he had stepped, every single thing his hands had touched. Not one of of those things was allowed to remain inside the house. Everything was taken outside and thrown away. Then I carried my son into the car and left without looking back even once. As Shinwon watched my car disappear into the distance, she clearly saw fear in both of her daughter's eyes. She had never expected that there would no longer be even a little softness left in my eyes for those two daughters. Yating's eyes turned red. "Mommy, does Daddy and our little brother not want us anymore?" Beside her, Xiaoyu cried and stubbornly said, "If he doesn't want me, then I don't need him either." Shinwon immediately ordered her people to follow my car. She gently stroked her daughter's head and said, "That's not true." But the expression on her own face showed that she did not even believe her own words. 2 days later, on the top floor of Shinwon Group, Shinwon stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling glass windows.